welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.
An accent. We need God. Because only God can bring us out of this mess.
Good morning. Welcome to the show. My name is Doni Glover. It's unbeknownst to some people that I live in West Baltimore, actually in the Sandtown community. And of course, that includes 72 square blocks, North Avenue on the north, Lafayette Avenue on the south, Pennsylvania Avenue and Fremont on the east side, and on the west, Monroe Street. So I've been here since 1992. I've worked in the community since 94. And back in 94 was doing the Sandtown Winchester Viewpoint newspaper. And in that time, let me tell you, we saw a lot of nonprofits come through this community. Some of them were good. Some of them were not so good. They did some things to help. And at the end of the day, it was supposed to be a community-driven transformation process, one led by residents, but it never really happened like that. We always had leaders that would come in from somewhere else. So they would live in Howard County or Baltimore County, and they would come to Sandtown and help make decisions. But at some point, the community was supposed to take over. And you're talking about the mid-90s. Now, you're talking about 2022. So you're talking about over 25, almost 30 years later. A big question remains. What of these neighborhoods now? Now, as we see, the community is changing in many ways. We now see, for instance, bike lanes. And I hear all kinds of advocacy about the bike lanes. But living in Baltimore for most of my 56 years, minus a couple of years down in Atlanta, I don't know any Black people talking about bike lanes. Personally, I don't. I don't see any Black people advocating for bike lanes, not at the top of their agenda. But people will talk about the bike lanes and they'll then allude to gentrification. And I struggle with that because is it gentrification or is it really abandonment? It's hard to tell sometimes. I mean, abandonment, we have these houses, we have these properties, we have grandma's house, but we elect to sell it. We elect to move elsewhere and discard grandma's house, the one we grew up in, the one we went to elementary school, stayed over there before it was time to go home. And so other people have found value in our community, even down to addicts that come to communities like Sandtown, like Historic East Baltimore, addicts who have never come to this community before. So to discuss some of these things, we want to bring up one of our show hosts, does a show, Baltimore Transit Equity, Minister Glenn Smith. We're going to be joined by a couple of others. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Minister Glenn.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Donnie. I'm Minister Glenn Smith. I'm Vice President of Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition. I'm also a board member with the Coppin Heights Community Development Corporation, where I chair their steering committee. I also am the community representative on the West North Avenue Development Authority. authority that has been formed by a bill submitted by Senator Antonio Hayes and Delegate Marlon Ampry that went into effect October 1st of last year. And it's to put together a plan for the development of the North Avenue corridor and from Bloomingdale to Micah to the east, Bloomingdale to the west. The authority will have the purview of receiving funding and around the development of housing and business along the corridor. And the authority will be presenting a plan to the General Assembly next year of how we're going to implement the revival of West North Avenue.
So, Minister Glenn, we're being joined virtually by Doc Cheatham. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning to everyone. God woke us up. It's a good thing.
So, Doc, we have Minister Glenn Smith here, and I was sharing prior to you coming on how living here in Sandtown, I can go back to Freddie Gray. In the 7 years since Freddie Gray happened, we heard of $1 million collected, millions of dollars collected, Doc. I don't know if you recall that, Doc Cheatham, but during Freddie Gray, there were commercials even on Channel 13. I remember specifically what was it called? The United Way, collecting money after Freddie Gray. Whatever happened to that money? Because the only thing I've seen since Freddie Gray in Sandtown is a renovated Western District Police Station and, oh yeah, a new funeral home down in Harlem Park. That's where you live at, Glenn.
What funeral home is that?
Al Wiley.
I didn't know where that money came from.
Stephanie Rollins Blake gave him a real nice deal, is my understanding. Doc Cheatham, you with us?
I'm with you.
What's happened since Freddie Gray, Doc?
Well, let's put this first thing. Most folks don't know what community got hit the hardest. Penn North didn't get hit the hardest. Sandtown did not get hit the hardest. My community got hit the hardest. We had 13 businesses that got hit. Many people don't know.
Well, that's
how many businesses we got hit.
Well, Doc, that's relative. Did you have any fires in your neighborhood?
Matter of fact, we had 5 fires that totally burned the place down, and they had to totally redo the building.
Well, we had fires here in Sandtown. I had fires in the next block. But be that as it may, because like Bob Marley say, every man think his burden is the heaviest. What I want to know is what's been done since Freddie Gray?
I know a young lady had a daycare center that was situated in what used to be 181. And I know she got money and then left. I know she received money. I know we had Elijah Cummings and what's the boy's name? This U.S. Senator Cardin came here. They gave us $250,000 to split up among 5 communities. We hadn't seen them since. We got very little funding during the Freddie Gray riots. We fed our own community for 3 weeks, for 3 days, and got very little assistance from the community. We got hit very hard during Freddie Gray riots, and we have not received any financial incentives or benefits from the Freddie Gray riots, but we're still moving on as best we can. We built the park and playground as a result of the Freddie Gray riots.
So, Doc, I want to fast forward to about 2 summers ago, the president during Freddie Gray, I think her name was Dr. Maria Thompson.
You talking about that Coppin?
Yes.
Right.
Well, my understanding is she had cancer and couldn't really participate much in what was going on with the school, post Freddie Gray, what have you. And so then we get a new president. But in the meantime, what I do remember, Marvelous, is being at BCCC with you as Kurt Smoke was about to speak to the BCCC family and anybody else who visited, and he articulated a plan. And this is when Coppin had no president. He articulated a plan to put Coppin under the University of Baltimore umbrella with BCCC, correct?
Not only that, but he also stole the police academy.
Oh yeah, there was a police academy that was set to be at Coppin State on the new campus below North Avenue, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And I think it was Catherine Pugh that shifted this police academy from Coppin to the University of Baltimore. And we were flabbergasted. Coppin had a whole new swath of land from North Avenue to Baker Street. Never understood that one, Doc.
The reason why Bishop Robinson had the building on Coppin's campus was to bring the police academy there. It is without a doubt that Kathy Pugh and Kurt Smoke had an agreement, but it's not the first time Kurt Smoke has gone against us. Kurt Smoke and Freeman Habrowski testified against the HBCUs during the HBCU hearing. Y'all didn't know that?
I did.
They were witnesses for the Maryland Higher Education Commission. Kurt Smoke and Freeman Habrowski, two black presidents, testified during the hearing in front of Catherine Blake, and they were testifying on behalf of the Maryland Higher Education Commission that we had sued.
So, long story short, Mr. Glenn, there have been some struggles underway. And so when, after fighting for Coppin, for Sandtown, for Easterwood, to learn of new developments happening on North Avenue, where once again the community is being left out, except this time there's a black man at the helm, is troubling. Because we live here, we've been fighting for here, and then it's like me hearing about something happening on Pennsylvania Avenue. We've been advocating for everything from Penn North Acupuncture to the building of Jim Hamlin's bakery. I mean, we've covered all of these developments when George Gilliam put markers up and down Pennsylvania Avenue, but now they have a new cadre of leadership, and they don't seem to really know the full story. Would you agree, Doc?
I think they know the full story of what they're trying to bring to us, but I'm not going to sit still, nor will some of the community presidents be materially left out of announcements for meetings. We got a document from the president. I emailed the president and told him, you're leaving out 4 communities that are adjacent to North Avenue, and I'm getting pushback like I'm wrong. I don't know my communities.
What 4 communities are they?
The letter that was signed by the president that we got a copy of a half an hour before the meeting started this week, the 4 communities that were not listed and still not, and I just talked to Mayo. The 4 communities were Asheville East, Coppin Heights, Robert Coleman, Holland Park West, and Bridgeville Greenlawn.
I didn't hear you mention Sandtown, Winchester.
The person you can ask is Glenn Smith or ask Senator Antonio Hayes.
Minister Smith?
Well, as I alluded to in my introduction. I am the community representative for the west side of the authority. I have notified Doc Cheatham. I've notified Miss Davis. I've notified Miss Adeline
Hutchins,
who was at the meeting, the last meeting. And I've done my job to notify everybody that I thought should know that we're gathering people to lend voice to the authority. Now, there is a community partner meeting scheduled for Monday, May the 9th, and that will be at 6 p.m. I don't know yet whether it will be virtual or hybrid, which means virtual and in person. As soon as I get that information, I will share that information. And the reason why it's called a community partner is because it will not only include community associations, but there will also be organizations such as the public libraries. There is a organization at Art Social Club that will be included. I extended an invitation to you, Donnie Glover. As a matter of fact, on the east side, from Fulton Avenue to Mount Royal, comes under the purview of DeAndre, I think her name is, at Druid Heights.
John Dre, she's at Druid Heights Community Development Corporation.
She replaced
Anthony Presley
as a community representative. And you know, this is a beginning formulation of, like I alluded to, the bill went into effect October the 1st of last year. There was a process.
Bill.
There was a process where there was a search for executive director who was hired in April. No, actually in the end of February of this year, who has looked at the plans that are in place along the corridor, has looked at funding that's available along the corridor and that the West North Avenue Development Authority can apply for. So this is a planning process that's in its infancy. Nobody is excluded, especially those associations along the corridor. And, you know, they've been invited. I mean, that's all you can do is to invite people. You can't make them come and be a part of it. So, you know, the door is wide open. And I say that with all sincerity, because I'm of the understanding that whenever something comes to a community, it's community first. You know what I'm saying? We don't need people coming shoving anything down our throats. I mean, we've been even with North Avenue Rising projects. You speak of the bicycle lanes along North Avenue. They are bus lanes that bicycles can use. You know, North Avenue is one of the most traveled corridors, North Avenue and the East-West corridor in the state.
I've traveled it all my life, Mr. Glenn.
I know. So this is a effort to have transportation move more swiftly along as far as mass transit. You know, Donnie, we are a car-centric country.
What's wrong with a car?
Nothing's wrong with a car, but there are people who don't have cars. You know,
Doctor, you have a car?
Yep, unfortunately.
How long have you been without a car, Doc?
35% of the people in West Baltimore do not have a car. 50% of them don't have access to a car.
That doesn't mean they don't travel by car.
50% don't have access to a
We
car.
have Uber, we have cabs, we have hacks. Who concludes this stuff?
Well, that's what the data shows that
Who
they
data?
collect. Well, the data from DOT, and I'm not saying that I agree with it, but this is what they are attempting to do. They have many charrettes, and I understand that people sometimes don't have time to go to meetings,
You
and
first got to know about them. And one
well,
thing I
they
learned
were pretty much publicized, you know,
of
but
course, see, that's
still,
relative, Minister,
yes, sir.
with all due respect. Living here in Sandtown, we understand very well the flow of information. For instance, if someone from Harlem Park is on the board for West North Avenue, without having someone from Sandtown, which is closer in proximity, that's not invitation, that's exclusion.
Well, I'm not representing Harlem Park. I am a representative of the Coppin Heights Community Development Corporation.
But there's a member of Harlem Park on the West North Avenue board, right?
Who is that?
There's no one from, I thought you live in Harlem Park.
I'm the community representative on the authority.
You live in Harlem Park?
I do. But I advocate for Coppin Heights. I advocate for all of West Baltimore.
But
Really,
you know
but
me, and you do a show on this network, and this is the first time hearing about it.
Did I send you an invitation? Did I send you?
After I made some noise.
No, come on, Donnie. Ain't no after you made no noise.
When did you send the invitation?
Donnie, I sent you the invitation not because you made any noise, because I know that you were doing business on your network. I knew that you could get the word out. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's trying to be.
No. I'm not doubting that.
Okay, all right.
You gave. I mean, I get a lot of notices for. I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
I sent you the notice for this last meeting that you attended. I sent you the notice for that.
Okay, what I'm sharing with you is we've been advocating for Coppin for years. Even when, hold up, let me speak my piece. When Coppin didn't have a president, and when they wanted to put Coppin under the BCCC umbrella, we were out there fighting for Coppin. Sorry about that, Doc. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened, but it's okay.
All right, so come on, Doc.
I heard what Minister Smith said, but I have a real contradiction to that. I got a phone call on, I guess it was Tuesday morning. Well, not a phone call, I got an email from Adeline Hutchinson. She had indicated, and you can call her up. She's very, very close to the senator. She emailed me and asked me what was the information on the meeting that was happening that day. And I told her I had not received it. She was emailing me because she had not received it. And that was on the same day of the meeting. Now, I complained about that at last month's meeting, and I put it in writing. And I put it in writing to the president of Coppin to tell him that there were communities that were not receiving the information. And I don't think anyone would disagree that Adeline would not be emailing me at 9:03 in the morning of the meeting and telling me she had not received it if she had received it. And that's clear evidence that folks are not receiving it. Someone that's very close to this whole process, very close to Senator Antonio Hayes, she would not email me in the morning if she had gotten the correspondence. She was emailing me to tell me she had not gotten it. I got an email that I sent to the president of Coppin as well. It's an email that came from Celia Davis, president of the closest community to Coppin. She's ASCO East. She sent an email she was totally agreeing with the email I sent last month that she had not been receiving information. So, I totally disagree that there has been constant communication. I've had Reservoir Hill communicate with me that they have not been getting information. So I don't know what the hidden agenda is. All I know is that I think people are lying to us, and I don't appreciate having a community on North Avenue. And basically, I can tell you people are not getting the communication, and for some reason, the leadership of this initiative is not listening to us.
What gets me, Minister Smith, is that when Coppin almost got folded, where they wouldn't even have had a real president, they'd have had a chancellor. Doc and I were out there fighting. Doc, who was out there with us that hot summer day? Might have been one other person.
I'm trying to think of who that was.
But they weren't expecting Coppin to show up, Minister Smith. They were about to fold Coppin into a situation where this West North Avenue authority wouldn't have even been a thought.
Well, Donnie, I know about the problems that Coppin had with a president every 2 years. Coppin's agenda was obtaining and retaining students. They didn't have a community agenda, which is why the Coppin Heights CDC had to leave the campus of Coppin and the foundation of Coppin and go out on our own in order to have a community agenda. Struggled for a few years because Coppin was paying the staff of the Coppin Heights CDC. Coppin had paid for our office space. So we essentially went out from that position so that we could advocate for community development as it should have been done. In that time, in that 5 years, we have, had a project at the Walbrook Mill, 65 apartments with retail on the first floor, the Hebrew Orphan Asylum, a $15 million renovation on a building that belongs to the community.
And this came out of the Hogan administration, right?
What came out? The Hogan administration?
A lot of this money for the West North Avenue, Walbrook Junction in particular, Walbrook Lumber Mill.
Walbrook Mill.
Press conference.
There was some money from the Hogan administration, yes.
Some money.
Yes.
Who else got money there?
Well, I mean, there was LIHTC money, there's state money, the capital stack, there are partners there.
I don't remember anybody coming there before the Republicans, and that was my big thing with the Democrats. This is a 9-1 Democratic town, and it took a Ehrlich and a Hogan to put money at Coppin. But I was glad. What about you, Doc?
In T-Way.
I was glad, but I remember that my community president
in T-Way
was on her deathbed, and we picketed Coppin.
Oh, you talking about Gwen?
That's right, Gwen Shelton. Gwen was actually on her deathbed. She couldn't get out the vehicle. We picketed Coppin because the only person that got money from the community that got a job was a guy that washed the tires down on the cars.
Well, you and I disagree on that fact, but I'm gonna let you win today, Doc.
Well, see, all we had to do is ask Ham, because Ham brought the police to come lock me up. We must have had about 8 people from the community there, and our problem was that we were not on Coppin's property. We were across the street from Coppin, so I told him, you can arrest me if you want, but this is not your property. But the only person that got a job from the community was the guy who washed the tires. We're saying, and I'm reading an email right now. The email came from Sheila Davis. The time of the email is it's on what is this? On Wednesday the 23rd of March, and I sent an email to Dr. Jenkins telling him people had not been communicated with. She sends me an email back. I agree with you, Doc. Because she was one of the presidents that was not being communicated with, and our community is right there on North Avenue. So I don't know, what kind of game some people are playing, but we're not going to sit still for this. If y'all want us as a part of a North Avenue thing, then make us a part, but don't exclude us in meetings.
Doc, did I send you an invitation and you reiterated that you wouldn't be able to attend the meeting, but nobody spoke for Matthew Henson? Did that not happen?
No,
I think that was the February meeting.
But Doc Cheatham.
Excuse me?
No one speaks for Matthew Henson.
Did I not send you an invitation to the meeting and you answered back that you wouldn't be able to attend?
That's right.
Okay. Now look, this is all I want to say, man. You know, nobody's trying to pull any wool over anybody's eye. We're trying to be as transparent as possible and inclusive as possible. Now, I emailed Ms. Davis, Ms. Hutchinson, Mr. Hunt, everybody on the west side that I know that should be at that meeting. Whether they attend, you know, there's nothing I could do to make them come. You know what I'm saying? So the invitation is out there.
Well, I just want to say, Mr. Glenn, I've been an advocate for Sandtown going back to 1994. I'm an alumni of Coppin State. I fought for Coppin to get that money. And so when this West Side redevelopment comes along and they totally ignore Sandtown, Winchester, Houston, we have a problem.
And I would say to you, and you've had DeAndre on your show. I saw the segment that you had.
She's Druid Heights.
Yes, she's Druid Heights.
I'm Sandtown, Winchester.
But that's east of Fulton Avenue, which is under the east side, okay? So connect with her and let her know that, hey, you want to be at that table. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to be at that
and
table.
I will extend that invitation to you as well.
I will be at that table because, see, you can't, let me just say.
We're on the same page, but look, Donnie, let's move forward.
Let me speak my piece. This is my show. Let me speak my piece.
Okay.
A lot of times, we as a people, we'll talk about the Republicans, we'll talk about East Baltimore, we'll talk about Baltimore County, but a lot of times the problem is us. And we can't always point the finger across the street. We should be talking to our neighbors. I talk to my neighbors. When people want to get the news out about this, about that, but what I've seen, and I hope I'm wrong, with this West Side redevelopment, because when I watch the meeting, it's almost like it's straight what Coppin says, and I'm all fine because we need a leader. But if you're going to be a leader, I think it was J.D. Howard who said it best, Doc. He said, you can't teach what you don't know, and you can't rule where you don't go.
Well, the floor was opened up for questions from the public. The purpose of the meeting was to give information of how the authority was proceeding.
Who's in charge? Who's in charge?
Dr. Jenkins is the chair of the authority.
Now, here's my one challenge. With all due respect, he's just getting here, right? So he has a tremendous learning curve. And this is what troubles me. If I move to Atlanta today, and I move, say, to Southwest Atlanta, and I wanted to be a part of the community, I got a lot of learning to do before I can lead anything.
This is the thing, Donnie. He's bringing.
Am I right? Am I wrong?
Oh, yeah. He's bringing the resources of the institution to the authority. just like Micah is bringing the resources of Micah to the authority.
Are you talking about our tax dollars?
I'm talking about the funding that comes through institutions. There's funding that comes through institutions.
And that's our tax dollars.
Well, tax dollars, whether it comes from tax dollars, whether it comes from tuitions, wherever it comes from, whether it comes from foundation or wherever it comes from, they're bringing institutional funding to the authority. Now, the authority is made up of people from planning. It's made up from people with the city. It's made up of our elected officials and their community representative. So, you know, we're bringing the community in. You know what I'm saying? Nothing's going to be shoved down anybody's throat. This is a collective effort. You know what I'm saying?
So look here, when they had Project Core first unleashed, you familiar with Project Core?
I am.
Doc Cheatham was with us up at Coppin when all of the presidents. Doc, you remember that meeting? Your best friend Boyd was there, but the lieutenant governor came to Coppin, and you talk about an inclusive meeting. This particular meeting was inclusive. It had everybody there. And so what I'm getting to is when they want to get everybody to the table, they have no problem. But when we get a little bit of crumbs, it's just like the empowerment zone. You don't remember the empowerment zone. You know, $100 million, the communities in East and West Baltimore, and invariably, there was always someone that did something petty, like stole $1,000 or $2,500. It just mess up and muddy the whole process.
Well, Kiefer Mitchell is the governor's representative on the authority. So, hey, man, what I'm saying is come to the table, express your concerns, and let's get this thing going, man. You know, I'm very excited about what's happening in West Baltimore, what's coming to West Baltimore.
You can't be more excited than me because I've been walking that strip for 50 years. Let me tell you this, Doc, Minister. I understand busing.
You don't have to give me your credentials, Mr. Glover.
Well, I want to clarify because apparently somebody doesn't know. But the bikes and the buses and the cars were all in one lane at one time. But now it's a bottleneck at Coppin and it's a bottleneck at North and Mount Royal. I don't understand how idling cars are good for the environment. I just don't.
Some of those measures are traffic slowing measures. You know,
it's slowing. It's slowing.
And look, and you still have people that zooming down North Avenue at the peril of some people trying to cross the street.
You know what North Avenue reminds me of? I've been practicing this all night. North Avenue reminds me of the Minority Business Enterprise Program.
Yeah.
It reminds me of how the program should work.
Mm-hmm.
The program should slow down the big dogs and then let the little dogs eat. So the same way they do on North Avenue, maybe they could do that Minority Business Enterprise Program the same way. Slow down the big dogs because they always eating and put something over in the bike lane for black people. But it don't work like that.
Well, let's make it work like that. Let's see if we can make it work like that.
Doc Cheatham, any thoughts?
I want to read this to you. This is an email that I sent to Honorable President Dr. Jenkins. The date was March 22nd, time 3:27 p.m. This is an email that I sent directly to the president. I am very concerned, even troubled, regarding the communication to, quote, West North Avenue, unquote, elected community leaders and representative organizations. The verbal response that I was given today in the meeting of the West North Avenue Development Authority was unacceptable unless the very name of this, quote, development authority is an untruth as perpetrated on Coppin State University a few years ago. And I'll explain to what I mean about a few years ago. Please make certain that those of us truly connected by the mere streaks the communities that we represent are duly and timely communicated with and notified. There appear to be more of us not on the board table that represent communities than were there. Today's event was in question to me. This is the email that I sent to the president of Compton a month ago about communication. And then for this Tuesday, for the same thing to be happening again, Donnie, I really don't like what's going on, and I think we're being lied to.
Minister Glenn Smith, let me just give you one fact you may not know. I'm a journalist. I reached out to Dr. Jenkins over a year ago to interview him. I learned my journalism craft right there at Coppin State. It took this black journalist a year to interview the president of Coppin State. What's most troubling, though, is that he gave the Baltimore Sun an interview right away. Dr. Cheatham, do we have white supremacy? Do we have black white supremacists?
So did you get the interview yet?
About a year later. The Sun paper got it immediately. I don't know where you come from, but where I come from, that's a smack in the face. We have to know when we're insulted. Biden said something during the Obama administration. He said the Republicans are going to put you back. What did he say? They're going to put you back in slavery. I don't know about you, but I am insulted when someone I vote for, put in office, starts talking to me like I'm a kid, like I don't know what the hell is going on. We have to know when we are insulted. Some people weren't insulted by it.
Maybe
but I know,
talking to you when
I know
he
he said to the Jewish community, the Republicans are going to put you in the oven. I know he would have been unemployed by lunch. But people feel like they can talk to us any kind of way, treat us any kind of way, give us any kind of crumbs. We only see politicians if every 4 years. There's some I haven't seen at all.
I would tell you this, Donnie, and I call names because I can't remember stuff. So I'd say what's on my mind. We have not seen Van Hollen, Infume, Antonio Hayes, Councilman James Torrance.
I have seen Hayes and Torrance. I ain't gonna swing on them.
We've documented. We haven't seen them in 15 months. And that includes the 3 delegates. We finally saw on Zoom, we finally saw Miss Wells. She came to my March Zoom meeting, but we also hadn't seen Ampry or Conaway.
Well, I will say this, Avenue Market, I understand, just got an investment, a federal investment, but it's the first time I've heard of YEC and Fume on Pennsylvania Avenue in about 20 years.
$2 million is an insult for as much money that place needs.
It's a drop in the bucket. When you consider the investment that goes into the White L. See, the White L is from Johns Hopkins straight down to the harbor and then over east to East Harbor. All of that investment they put into the harbor, Glenn Smith, and the harbor is dead. They got to go get a black man to resurrect it, David Bramble. Is David Bramble at the table?
Yes, he is. He has that project at Park Avenue North.
A big old parcel of land that used to be Murder Mall right down there where the traffic congestion is. Well, I bet you what, that millionaire ain't going to have that traffic congestion down there when he gets that place to popping. The traffic is backed up through from 83 back to Park Avenue, all the way going west. It's, Doc, have you ever seen a traffic bottleneck like that before?
I ran into
well, Donnie, look what you have coming together there. You have people coming from east
Big
to
brother,
get on
I've been walking the street
93.
for 50 years. There's nothing you can tell me about it. The street was fine. It was fine. Somebody got some federal money to put them red bike lanes down there. They didn't talk to the community. They said, the hell with what black people think. Just like this whole opioid epidemic. When it was black people struggling with crack and heroin, we were called crackheads and dope fiends. What they call them now, Doc? What they call the crisis? Opioid epidemic.
Opioid, yep. And we got more opioid deaths than we do shootings.
Including white addicts. Have you seen them, Glenn Smith?
I sure have.
Now, if black people had heroin and cocaine over in Bolton Hill, well, by golly, Fox 45 would be off the hook. So what are we going to do? Let's start with you, Doc Cheatham.
I just think, more of the communities got to get actively involved. Yes, I know that the COVID did kind of slow a number of us down. I'm just asking that the groups that should be included be included. There's been no problem in Michael folks trying to move down to West Baltimore. I don't think that should happen. I think if anything, Coppin should be going east. It should not be an inclusion of Micah coming to our part of the neighborhood. I just think that there's a hidden agenda, and they're putting us on the list that we are part of these things. But, the fact that I exposed the fact that 4 major communities were not invited in the last month's meeting. And then I get pushback that I bring up the issue that there is a communication problem. And as a result of the communications we got this week, they almost admit, that certain groups had not been properly communicated with. And to me, it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable what's going on. I just think there's a hidden agenda. They want us to go along, to get along. And I'm not one of those presidents going to go along with this issue. All of these communities need to be communicated with. If we can talk to folks that are going all the way down to the Harlem Park area, how can you leave out Bridgeview Green Lawn? It's ironic that you got communities, that are being communicated with. What is Reservoir Hill doing with us? It's amazing. I just think there's a hidden agenda here, and they just want our names on the list and say that we were a part of it. But I'm not a part of this junk where you're not communicating with us on a regular basis. I'm not acceptable to that.
We've been joined by Senator Hayes. Senator Hayes, Lauryn Hill has on her album Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. She says she's come to find in her travels all over the world that what differentiates one child from another is not ability, but access. Access to education, access to opportunity, access to love. The question today, Senator Hayes, is do poorer communities, where the vote is sometimes light, although we voted for Obama overwhelmingly, but poorer communities, socioeconomically challenged communities like Sandtown, Winchester, are often left out of the loop?
I think sometimes people are, challenged by all of the other life experiences, and people have an opportunity to participate. Sandtown, Winchester is not what I would classify as totally a poor community. You have a great diversity there in Sandtown, Winchester. Some people are socially and economically challenged, but there is, a mixture of all of Baltimore there in Sandtown. And oftentimes when we don't participate, or for whatever reason, competing priorities intervene, and we're not at the table, unfortunately, other people make decisions on their behalf. Did we lose Doni?
I think he's there.
Okay, got you. I
had to refill my coffee. Minister Glenn Smith had me thirsty.
Got you. And I apologize, Doni, that I got away to kind of set my mind. I had other things that occupy me a little bit.
Doc Cheatham, be nice. He's got a baby on his shoulder. You cannot cuss, Doc.
Right. But, I did get a chance to hear part of, what Doc was saying. Doc was saying right before I came on. There's no hidden agenda. We're trying to include everyone in the process. We're really focusing on North Avenue, because if you travel, North Avenue is probably the most visible spot in West Baltimore, the second highest traveled bus route in the state of Maryland. And so, but as you drift off of North Avenue into some of the communities that align there are really vibrant communities that are active. But as you go down North Avenue and see the vacancies, that is what people see at our doorstep. And so communities, like I said earlier, Donna, can choose to participate or not to participate. But we're going to do our best to outreach to everybody to make sure it's as inclusive of a process. And yes, there has been some communications issues. I'll take full responsibility for that. Up until this point, we have been using staff at Coppin State University who weren't hired to do the job of working the West North Avenue Development Authority. They were hired to be chiefs of staff for the university. Thankfully, the institution has stepped up and allowed some of their staff to assist us in getting the word out. But that's not what they were hired to do. They're state employees that were hired to do their primary job at the university. Now that we have at least one person on board with the development authority, hopefully communication will get a lot better. But this is a new entity that's never been done before, and we're trying to put an attention onto all of the great things that's happened along North Avenue and over 20 different community associations and partners that make up the West North Avenue corridor. Why is Reservoir Hill included? Reservoir Hill is a community that I represent. This is the West North Avenue Development Authority from 83 all the way up to Hilton. That's where my district stopped. I didn't want to pick certain communities and skip over communities or whatever. We're trying to be as inclusive.
I gotta jump in, Senator. Reservoir Hill has a lot of rich white people that live up in there, and
And
we know that they put pressure on our elected officials. We get it, but we want them to know, just like them bike lanes, we live here too. We've been living here forever, and nobody cared about us crossing Druid Park Drive. Now all of a sudden, you got to slow the traffic down because somebody don't want to get hit going across Druid Park Drive. It's been our reality for 50 years. Now we got to change because somebody don't feel comfortable.
Donnie, I think it's easy to say us against them in any conversation.
Where does it include us? Baltimore has a long history of segregation that has not been corrected.
Okay, I'm gonna let. I know we could sing together, but we sure can't talk together. So I wanted to make sure you get finished your statement. I didn't want to interrupt you. My apologies. But no, Reservoir Hill do have some homes that some home prices that's going up. They have some pretty wealthy individuals. They also have marginalized communities. The Mutual Homes Project is probably one of the oldest co-op affordable housing programs in the country, and it's been very, very successful. Baltimore doesn't have many co-ops where individuals of low income and affordable means live all within a communal area together and have and share ownership in the affordable housing project. That's been able to sustain in Reservoir Hill despite homes on Utah and Madison escalating to prices. Mutual Homes is a neighborhood that has sustained itself. But bottom line, we want to be as inclusive as possible. We haven't done a good job. If that's the criticism that is embarked upon me, I take full responsibility. I have a staff of 2 people. I was thankful for the help of Coppin to help get the word out there. But we want to be as inclusive as that. Now, some communities already have a plan, right? And so there will be no need to start from scratch. Reservoir Hill, as wealthy as you say they are, they don't have a plan. Bolton Hill don't have a plan. Penn North has a plan. Druid Heights has a plan. Greater Mondawmin and Compton Heights have a plan. But there are some communities along that stretch that do not have a plan. And we're behind the 8 ball. If you look just over the bridge at 83, which is our most adjacent area, the Central Baltimore Partnership, they have a $10 million fund that's been rotating over years because they recognize that those communities needed to come together and build up a comprehensive plan and implementation strategy for their community. So some people say, well, why didn't you include everything from Hilton to Milton? I didn't want our communities to be at the table necessarily at a disadvantage because the organizations and the communities on the east side of 83 has had having a lot more resources, including a $10 million rotating fund as well as help from Weinberg and other folks. And so one day we will get there to a plan where we can incorporate from Milton to Hilton. But right now, we need to make sure that we're on an even playing field and that we're able to bring the resources that the community has said that they want. And the West North Avenue Development Authority is very definitive in its geographic. It's from 83 to Hilton or North Avenue and everything within 250 yards. A lot of people would like to see us expand it further down Pennsylvania Avenue or the Harlem Park or other communities. We chose West North Avenue, one, because it's the most visible. Two, it has some of the greatest amount of blight. And three, that it brings several neighborhoods, diverse neighborhoods, whether they are socioeconomically challenged or not, together under one vision to invest in West Baltimore.
And don't forget, it was the epicenter of the Freddie Gray unrest of 2015.
Yes,
Doc Cheatham, we're about to roll out. Any final thought?
Well, I want to share this with the senator because I think everybody around him may know it, but maybe they haven't told the senator directly. Last month, as a result of the meeting last month, I sent an email to President Jenkins and informed him that there were four, and I identified the four community presidents that had not received the communication. I got pushback at that meeting that, folks can be invited, but you can't make them come. Well, ironically, this Tuesday, one of your strongest supporters, and that is Adeline Hutchinson, Tuesday morning at 9:03 in the morning, she emails me to tell me she had not received information about the meeting. She didn't know whether the meeting was virtual or whether it was going to be physically at the meeting. And I'm saying, if she will admit, now her community is not listed on that letter from the president of Coppin, nor was ASCO East listed on that list of communities. It's just that I brought it up last month and I got pushed back because I must have been talking out of my mind. I didn't know what I was talking about. But a month later, that the issue about communication is being brought up. And I'm saying, if we're going to be asked to be a part of an organization or entity, then listen to those of us who are saying we're not being communicated with properly. And that's what I did last month.
Doc Team, I just want you to bring one point home. 2 summers ago, when they wanted to put the umbrella of University of Baltimore over top of Coppin and BCCC, who was out there fighting for Coppin?
Very few of us, but one of the problems that Coppin has, they have so many but alumni that are employees. We found that they were reluctant to actually tell the truth about what was happening and them not getting the police academy because so many of them are employees of Coppin.
We've got a lot.
Academy? I missed that point.
The police academy was originally supposed to go at Coppin State. Under Mayor Catherine Pugh, it was shifted to go to University of Baltimore, therefore shifting a ton of money and a lot of years of planning for that academy is shifted down to UB.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, because I've been involved in this as well, that part of the problem was the leadership changes, and not just the city level but also at Coppin State University, and was a lot of communications. But I will tell you, probably I think April the 12th or something like that, the stadium authority, I secured $450,000 back in 2020 to initiate a feasibility study to have it at Coppin. Up until this point, it's been a thought. There's been city council resolutions without any money put behind it. There's been no plan in place. And so I established the $450,000 so that the city authority could work with Coppin. They just identified a vendor, and I can't remember the vendor off the top of my head. Next couple of weeks, they will be talking to our police department, our fire department, Coppin, and others to see, where best to put it and how much it's going to cost. Right? I think, it's one thing to talk about what we want, but to put the right plan and stuff in place. And so it's not a dead issue. The contract down at University of Baltimore is only temporary. we're still very much pursuing the idea of putting a public building up at a public safety facility at Coppin.
Good deal. Family, thank you all for joining us today. We've run out of time. Senator Hayes, thank you for tell us the baby's name.
You're doing that real good there.
I know. Antonio Aguilera. Say hello to Doni and Reverend Glenn and Doc Cheatham.
and Doni, Monday the 9th of May, the community partner meeting. I'll let you know when it is. And like I say, I've been sending notification to those communities. We're trying to get them at the table.
Good
Have
deal.
a blessed day,
Good
everybody.
point. And can I give one more shameless plug, Doni? Every year, the 40th district delegation, we meet with our constituents as a whole before we go into a session, once during session, and then after session. On May the 2nd at 6 o'clock, we're going to be convening all of the communities that's represented in the 40th district and reporting out on what we were able to get done this past legislative session.
So we also have to tell people, Senator, that you're our new senator here in the old 44th.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Good deal. Thank you all for joining us. One last thing, we got to really work with Coppin, BCCC to make sure that there's a seamless transition between schools. A lot of times we go out there and promote academic programs. You can go from BCCC to Coppin, and that's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you about that. Tell you more about that offline.
Yeah. No, and Coppin and Doc and others will tell you, Coppin is educating the young people that need to be educated. They're the only school in the state of Maryland that have 70% of their kids on Pell Grant. Most schools have 30 to 40%, but they're educating the least among us and giving them an opportunity for a 4-year institution, and their alumni are off to doing big and better things.
All I'm saying is, HBCUs often say they don't have money. We want our HBCUs to be accountable also.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of accountability. I think, if you look at even the budget hearings this year, there were several proposals to rip away a lot of money from Coppin this year because Coppin is getting more money per pupil than most schools. But what the system fails to realize is that individuals who come from some of the communities that Coppin is educating need more than just being in the classroom. They're looking at the amount of money that's going into the classroom, ignoring the fact that Coppin is the only school in the system that has a full clinic on its campus. It has daycare on this campus. Most institutions, will privatize that or send it out to other people, but they're providing resources to deal with the whole family that their students often represent, and older students that their university usually have. So,
good deal. Thank you all. Good morning, world. We're going to have a beautiful weekend.
God bless.
Thank you, everyone.